Hey there, stampers. I've got another video to share with you featuring the Celebrate Sunflower stamp set. This one just uses the stamp set, so not the dies. And I wanted to show you a way that you can use stamps that are line art images that sometimes can be overwhelming for people who don't necessarily love to color, and they might flip past those stamp sets because of that. So I wanted to show you a couple ideas, well, one in this video, on how you can use stamps like that and not have to color them in and still get a beautiful card. Okay, so some of the things that you can look for in your stamp collection is larger line art images. Okay, so anything that maybe you think might need to be colored. So I'm going to use both of these images and then a greeting. But if you don't have line art images, because like I said, you might pass by them because you don't like to color, then you can choose a solid image stamp as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me share. Okay, actually, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of paper, and I've got a piece of Whisper white cardstock that measures 3 3/4 by 5. I'm going to use the large sunflower image first with Memento ink. Now, if you're doing a line art stamp, then Memento ink is fine. If you're doing a solid stamp, then you might want to use a color, especially if it's a flower. You probably don't want a big, bold black flower. So just pick any color. It doesn't matter what color it is. Okay, so, and any larger images like this, I like to flip the stamp upside down and ink it, because that way I can see where it's been inked. I'm going to stamp it once up in the corner here, and because it is a larger stamp, I'm just going to make sure that I apply pressure all the way around so that I get a nice crisp image. This is also a great one to use with your Stamparatus, but because I'm stamping it in multiple places, it was easier for me to just use a clear block. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. And this time we're going to do it down here. And then I'm going to bring the smaller sunflower image in. And again, my Memento ink. This time, because it's smaller, I can just ink it just the regular way. And we're going to do one kind of off the side here. And then another one up here. Okay, and let's move this away so you can take a look. Look how beautiful that is, just like that. Now we're going to mat it onto a piece of basic black cardstock. And this piece of cardstock measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. I'm just going to use some multi-purpose glue. Add a little bit around the edges. A little bit of this glue goes a very long way. You don't need very much. Okay, so this is going to give us just about a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. And then that is going to get attached to our card base. And I've got a piece of Bumblebee cardstock that measures 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. And again, I'm just going to stick it down the center of the card front. And this time we have a little bit of a wider border. It's one of the things I love to do, is switch up the thicknesses of my borders. Okay, now we're going to do our greeting. So you could stamp your greeting right on there if you wanted, but let's step it up a little bit. I've got a piece of black cardstock. It's just a scrap. And I'm going to use my embossing buddy just to give that a wipe. That will remove any static or any oils from my fingers. And I've got the Thanks a Bunch greeting. I'm going to use my Versamark ink. Ink that up, stamp it down on my black cardstock. And then sprinkle it with some white embossing powder. So I keep my embossing powder in these little containers that I picked up at the dollar store. And I have a coffee filter for each one, and that just allows me to easily dump it back in if I'm doing a larger piece. Okay. So now I've got that powder on there. So I'm going to take it over to my heat tool and heat it just to set it. But I've got one pre-done for you, so you don't need to wait for me to do that. And here it is embossed, and then I've also gone around and I fussy cut around the greeting. I really like doing that. It's kind of a fad that I'm going through right now, or a phase. I just love the way it looks. Grab my scissors here. I'm going to pop the greeting up. So I'm just cutting just a few dimensionals around the edges so I have some narrower strips that I can use on my greeting. Here, and one more here. Peel off the backing. And then our greeting is going to go right here. Let's make sure my card base is straight so I get my greeting straight. And I want it to hang over onto the yellow just ever so slightly. There we go. And then we are going to add one of my favorite elements. If you watch my videos or you catch my Facebook Lives, you know that I am absolutely in love with these Flowers for Every Season gems. So I'm just putting a little dot of Tombow, or 3 little dots of Tombow, and then I'm going to take some of these clear gems and just drop them right on there. Just like that. There we go. All right, and our card is done. So you can see how simple it can be to just simply stamp a line art image in one color and still get a beautiful card. Here's one that I did using the Let's Celebrate You. So exactly the same layout. This one I did the inside, so I just stamped again. I just repeated that smaller flower, sunflower. All right, so thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.